Hello and welcome back to Ride Rescue. In the last video I ended off with the fenders being completely in a primer surfacer and a sealer. Bonds really well to the bare metal as well as the paint and the filler. In order to match up with the color of the car as much as I can, I figured I could probably take a piece of the car, the cover over the gas cap or something that has this color on it, and take it to a paint shop and have them match it exactly. But the car has got some fading at the top. It's still got some of the original color at the bottom. There's no way I'm going to get an accurate color match on this car consistently everywhere. I'd prefer having the hood and the top of the fender and the top of the door match. I think that's what's going to show the most. But at the same time, if you look down the side of the car, I don't want it to be a lighter color against the door. So there's no real good way to do this without literally blending and fading the color from top to bottom. So I decided to just take it the easiest. I got the paint code from 1960 Pontiac, and I just had them mix up a quart of paint for me. So it's not going to be exact, but it's going to be pretty close. I'll scuff them up a little bit. Dole up the paint a little bit, leave some of it shiny along the bottom, dole it along the top, and we'll see how it turns out. So that's what I'll walk you through with this video, is I'll get them painted, they'll be all nice and shiny, and then in the future videos we'll scuff them up and we'll play with them and see what I can do about getting them as close to the rest of the body as I can. So like I said, I started out with these fenders being in gray primer, but the gray primer, I'm putting this fresh paint on it, it's going to make the color a little bit lighter. And it might even change the tone a little bit. The original finish that General Motors did, they did a red oxide primer over the bare metal. It's hard to find a good red oxide primer in a surfacer and a sealer that I can use over the metal and the paint and the filler. So I decided to go ahead and use the real high quality primer for the base, and then I just used some rattle can red oxide primer to go over all of the gray surface to cover it all up, and that'll give me a nice firm base. The red oxide primer, even in the spray can, I've used it before, and it is a really good quality finish. So spray it all on. I don't even need to wait for it to cure. I don't want to scuff it or anything. It's going to leave a little rougher finish, but that's kind of the finish and the texture that I'm after. So once I put on the final coat, it's just going to be a single stage paint. I'm not going to use a base coat, clear coat. With a single stage, I'll be able to play with it, scuff it, scratch it, do things to it that'll mimic and kind of give the appearance of what the original car had. It'll be obvious that they've been repainted, but it'll just kind of tie it in together with a couple other areas on the car that have had some work done to it. There's a spot on the hood that's actually a little darker, so most likely that's kind of what happened to the nose of the car. Maybe it got bumped or scratched and they touched it up and it's a little darker compared to the rest of the paint. So this will tie into all that and we'll see how it goes. So my plan yesterday was to get the primer surfacer on and then go directly to paint. But it took me a lot longer than I'd expected. It was getting too late. It was starting to get too cold, so I decided to wait. So I got the primer surfacer on, as you can see, and this morning I scuffed it, got everything ready. Since it's set overnight, I didn't want to take any chances of it not bonding. So I just need to go over the whole thing, tack rag it down, and then once I get that all tack ragged off, then I can start painting. Since I'm not going for a high-end finish on these fenders, I want to try to match the hood. The hood's pretty rough, the doors are pretty rough. I'm probably going to end up having to repaint the door and the one rear quarter panel, but I want to leave the driver's side, both the door and the quarter and the trunk. I'll keep all the factory original paint. It's not the best paint, but it's factory original, and as they say, it's only original once. True, I'm repainting the front fenders and the door and possibly the rear quarter, and now it looks like I'm going to have to paint the roof. the roof is covered with surface rust. I was hoping I could just do the same thing I did with the underneath side of the hood, where I can use a scouring pad and the CLR and take the rust off and leave the finish. I've seen it done on the net. It works pretty good, but there's more rust than there is paint, and I tried stepping up a little bit yesterday, and there's not much left. The more I worked on it, the less paint there was. I'm going to have to repaint the roof. It's a cream colored roof, so the majority of the original red will be left on the car. We'll see. Who knows? A couple months from now, once I start taking the car out to the car shows, I might just repaint the whole thing. I'll leave it up to my followers. Hopefully I have enough subscribing and liking. If it makes sense, leave a comment. Maybe I'll end up completely restoring this car. I don't want to take the body off, but there's some rust in the trunk. I'll show that on some upcoming videos. For now, I'm going to use my low-end Harbor Freight gun. I changed the nozzle to put in a larger tip for the primer. I want to change that back, so I'll put in the other tip now and we'll convert it back over to more fine spray. And we'll get the paint mixed up. We'll get started now. We'll put some hardener in it and get my fans going. As you can see, when I was painting the primers dry so fast, it turns to a powder, it turns to a dust. It just blows off, sweeps off. But I've closed everything off that I don't want red overspray on, because the top coat stays sticky for a long time. So if you don't want a sticky overcoat, cover up the plastic, or cover up with plastic. The boxes and things that I have here, I don't mind if I get a little overspray on, a little stickiness, but I've covered all the floor. So I think I'm ready. It's almost tacked off. Just a little bit longer. Maybe a minute or two is all. We'll start putting on the next coat. In valleys like this, you have to be really careful. You notice I was down on my hands and knees just really looking at the light. The fan will have a tendency to spray into the bottom of that valley and you'll end up with runs. So I can put it on real heavy on this top surface, I can see it flowing, but it's really hard to tell in an area like this. And I've had them where go to the next coat and all of a sudden I've got sags. So I was being very careful. I didn't want to have a dry look, but I didn't want to have sags either. It looks really good. It's flowing well. I don't see any real issues. Fantastic. Let these cure and we'll start putting this car back together. That's exciting. Well, the proof is in the lights. You see it's smooth. Float out well. Don't see any tiger stripes. Don't see any runs. And this will just keep curing and smoothing. I got a little dust specks. I had a little bit of a unexpected breeze kick up and actually forced my fans backwards for a second, which is disturbing. So I did kick up a little bit of trash. Luckily it was sheened over fairly smooth, so 95% of it will just come off with a bit of a buffing. But again, like I said before, I don't plan on buffing this down to a high-end shine. I'm just going to scuff it up and leave it at more of a matte finish. I'll probably use a 1000 grit sandpaper and just leave it. I do plan on keeping the inner fender well lip. It goes up against the black fender wells. I do plan on keeping that as a high gloss. The firewall on this car cleaned up beautifully. I just used a Scotch-Brite pad and then clear coated it, so that'll tie in to the firewall. And then when I take the shine off the tops of these fenders so that it matches the hood, and then I'll buff the hood as much as I can. So before I start messing with this paint too much, I'll see what kind of life I can get out of the original finish. It's looking really, really good. We'll let it cure and I'll be able to start playing with it. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I've got more videos coming up. Now that I've got the fenders ready, they're sitting aside waiting to cure. I've started putting on most of the black metal, the core support, the radiator, putting all those things on so that I can actually start the motor up. So in the next video, we'll walk through that. I'll get this thing fired up and let's hear how it sounds. Hopefully it runs well. I'm sure if it doesn't run well, it just needs some tuning. The carburetors, there's a lot of work to adjust all 3 carburetors so everything syncs together, get the timing right. I did put a cam in it, so that's going to throw the original timing off quite a bit. It doesn't have timing marks, which is interesting on these old engines, so I'm pretty much just going to have to time it by ear and by sight and see how it runs and go from there. So in the next video, we'll walk you through that. So thanks again for watching. Give me a like, subscribe if you haven't already. Anything you can do to help me out, appreciate it. Goodbye for now.